Busia, Kisumu, and Eldoret as well. I hand you over to Jesse Rogers for now.
Well, a very good evening to Sophia and to our viewers as well. Right here at the data center, we crunch the numbers and continue watching the election trends from a bird's eye view and putting some of the closely called results into perspective. It's indeed a race for the numbers, not just on the race to the House of Nahil, but equally a race for numbers when it comes to the balance of power in both the National Assembly and the Senate. We will break down some of the tough races we've witnessed across the 47 counties, even as the long wait for the official IEBC announcement continues. I'm Jesse Rogers. Good evening. This is Kivumbi 2022. And before we start crunching down the numbers, we just want to get a feel of the state of affairs across the country. But of course, eyeballs and the camera lenses are trained at the main tallying center at the Bomas of Kenya. And I just want to link up with my colleague Muthoka, who has been pitching camp at the Bomas of Kenya, and we have seen interesting developments right there, the periodical updates from the IEBC commissioners in terms of the verified figures when it comes to the presidential race. So Muthoka, if you can hear me, good evening. It's great to have you with us. Let's first establish how far we have to go until the declaration is done. We just had the first update just in a few minutes ago. What exactly is happening at the Bomas of Kenya as we speak, Muthoka?
Well, Jesse, after a deafening silence had reigned the Bomas of Kenya over the announcement of presidential election results in new constituencies since 2:30 p.m. just a few minutes ago, Commissioner Boya Molu has announced the presidential election results in new constituencies, and the number, to be specific, is in 32 new constituencies. Now that brings the number of constituencies that have seen their presidential election results announced to 215. And in a country where we have 290 constituencies plus diaspora, we still have 76 constituencies left before the IEBC can call it a day and a winner in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta is announced. And just to move swiftly and effectively into the new constituencies where the presidential election results have been announced just a few minutes ago by Commissioner Boya Molu. Among them is Uriri in Migori, Kiambaa, Wajir South, the diaspora, Embakasi North, Chesume in Nandi, Kieni in Nyeri, Buri in Meru, Saboti in Trans Nzoia, Marakwet West, Nyali in Mombasa, Suna West and Suna East in Migori, Embakasi Central, Kuresoi North, Molo, Kibra, Mwatate, Thika Town, Isiolo South, Garissa Township, Rorieda in Siaya, Sabatia in Vihiga, Roysambu in Nairobi, Voi in Taita Taveta, Galole in Tana River, Embakasi South, Mandera East, Lafe in Mandera, Igembe South in Meru, Gishugu in Kirinyaga, and lastly Rongai. And so those are the 32 new constituencies where Commissioner Boya Molu has announced the presidential election results. And so definitely we've seen different figures where a number of these presidential aspirants are leading and where a number of them are trailing. And this definitely is going to make an effect. And this is definitely, yes, going to do a little thing to the figures, definitely in the race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. As I earlier mentioned, we have 76 more constituencies left before IEBC can ultimately wrap up the entire tallying, collation and announcement of the presidential election results per constituency. And so we have just 2 days left. The window keeps getting slimmer by the day, and the IEBC right here at the Bomas of Kenya is in a race against the clock to announce as many constituencies as possible within the span of 2 days. days that it has left. And we just here definitely have pitched camp, just monitoring and waiting and hearing as these new constituencies are announced, as rather the results from these new constituencies are announced. So the IEBC definitely yesterday had spoken about the attendance to the returning officers that have already arrived here. And for the past 3 days, the IEBC said that 257 of them had arrived, and as yesterday 141 had been attended to, leaving some room and some space for others. And so definitely we've seen some changes today, where we began with just roughly 143 results being announced, rather from constituencies being announced. That number has now risen to 215. And so definitely we can just say that the process of tallying, collation and the announcement of presidential election results per constituency has definitely entered home stretch, Jesse.
Okay, Muthoka, thanks for that update. But before I let you go, are all the returning officers already at the Bomas of Kenya? That would be proper to note.
Well, we cannot for sure say that all have arrived, but just looking at the space where they have been allocated to sit, looking at it right now, we have 5 returning officers who are yet to make their date with the IEBC clerks on the floor of this auditorium, who are aiding IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati, and who is as well the returning officer for the presidential election in the entire tallying, collation, as well as the announcement of the presidential election results per constituency. And so looking at it right now, we have 6 in the queue, and definitely a number already are on the floor of the auditorium, and the rest have already left. And so definitely the IEBC has that question to answer for us when the IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati approaches the podium, definitely to give a status update, which should be taking place in an hour's time or in a couple of hours' time from now, Jesse.
Thanks for that update. Muthoka, our man on the ground at the main tallying center at the Bomas of Kenya. Of course, we saw a couple of leaders barred from accessing the venue a little bit earlier on in the day, even as security is definitely tight ahead of that particular result. We'll be crossing over back to Muthoka just to get an update of the latest developments at the main tallying center.